Well, this first dream is from Dianne. And like I said, in the dream, she finds herself in pilgrim times and rehearsing lines that she has in a theatrical play. And she calls the dream saying the lines. Let's take a look at it. I am gathering in pilgrim times, but also more modern. And when I asked her about that, she just meant that she's in the dream. There is an outdoor area enclosed by a tall wall. There is a stage to the left that is connected to a wooden building that you enter by going downstairs on the right side of the stage. The building is like a lodge with one big room. There's going to be a theatrical play presented. I have a small part. I go down the stairs from the stage and run into a familiar looking man. He looks like a familiar British actor from Waking Life. He has blonde hair. He is sad. He has to say some lines that remind him of his son, who has died. I talk to him for a while, trying to comfort him. I go inside the lodge to get my lines that are written out. I find a man with a machine that types out the lines. I bring my lines to him, and he puts them into the machine, which prints them out. The lines then become clearer for me to read. I keep running into people who are in the play. They're practicing their lines. The weird thing is that none of the lines seem to connect to anyone else's lines. There is no storyline, just isolated individual speeches. We go on stage and present our monologues and take our bows. I go down from the stage. There are clothes hanging from a hook. They seem to be for sale. I think they are costumes from the play. One is a little girl's red dress. I look at it and admire it. Each piece of clothing has a handwritten price tag. All right, so that's the whole dream. I'm going to go back to the start of it and read it line by line and break it down for you, because I've done that a few times on the show now and people say they absolutely love that. So again, it's called Saying the Lines, and we would imagine just from the title that it's going to be about channeling, and we have an actor in the dream. Bill Nighy, she said, was the actor. And he's British too. So we're going to cover all of that, but it's going to be really the spiritual gift of channeling, where you're told what to say by the spirit world and you're meant to say that onto whoever your client is when you're given a reading. So given that context, let's go to the start. She says, I am at a gathering in pilgrim times, but also more modern. And, we didn't have pilgrim times in Ireland. We had other times. So I asked her, what did that mean for her? And she said, it's about being very rigid, probably due to religion or something like that, and other things too. So that's going to be the background. So we know that she has old-fashioned, she says it's also old-fashioned. So she has old-fashioned influences and religious influences, or not really the religion itself, but that type of influence, hard-bearing influence in her life, that she's been a victim of that, let's say. So it's not about her being like that, but her being subjected to it. There is an outdoor area enclosed by a tall wall. That's the second line. So here, walls are about the heart, typically. And then the fact that she says the outdoor area is enclosed kind of backs that up. So it's about how I limit something in some way. And we know the something because of the title is about channeling. So she limits her channeling and she's meant to share it, obviously, because it's limited. We need the opposite in the dream. So it's about her needing to get to the point where she can share her channeling gift with others. And so then we expect later on, we're going to see why she limits it. What is the issue? We already know, because I said in the tease at the start of the show, that it's limitation due to dad. And this is how it works. Our lives are going to be limited in a very particular way. And having to overcome that issue is where our growth is. And when we overcome it, we get to unlock some really positive aspect of us. So it's well worth the effort for her. Next line is, there is a stage to the left that is connected to a wooden building that you enter by going downstairs on the right side of the stage. The building is like a lodge with one big room. Okay, 2 lines there. And I said the 2 because it's really about birth. Moving from a high location to a low location is about moving from the spirit world, high vibration, to the physical world, which is low vibration. And we also see the lodge, which is also another symbol for birth. But the wooden building that she says it's connected to, there's a stage that's to the left, that's connected to the wooden building. So we know that this gift, or being on stage, using this gift on stage, and it's not necessarily literal, although I can see this dreamer using this on stage. It's like this is something that she has to do. It's part of a stage of her life. She's got to be in front of people using this gift. The reference to the wooden building tells us that she also has digestive system issues, but nothing big. It doesn't really point out, like, here's what you need to do. It's just a nod to it. But when you see that in a dream, and we see, okay, the channeling is what the dream is about, and it's going to get into talking about issues with dad. It says if you work on these issues, it's also going to help your digestive system. There's no other reason for it to be in the dream. There always has to be purpose behind everything that's there. Many times on the show we skip pieces, but here we're doing the detail. She also says, like, the building is like a lodge with one big room. And so when you think about a room, if I was to say I was in my kitchen and there was 20 other people in there, you would be thinking, oh my gosh, that's crowded. But if I said there was a big room, you automatically assume this room is built for a lot of people. So how many can you fit in? We don't know from the dream, but it's meant for a lot of people to be there. So it's all about coming here specifically with the purpose of sharing her gift, because that room is all about bringing a lot of people together, obviously for a purpose. She says there's going to be a theatrical play presented. Well, now we're getting into what the purpose is. So it's part of what her life is about. She says, I have a small part. And when I asked her about that, because that seems negative, it's been a small part, but she said her part was the same length as everybody else's. Everybody had a few lines, the same few lines, different lines for each person, but the same amount of lines. So really, in this context, it's saying, look, it's not daunting. And that's the point of it. It's like, this is what you're meant to do. It's not that big and everybody is doing it. So be like everybody else. If everybody else can do it, you can do it. And so it's a very encouraging thing for us to see in the dream. She says, I go down the stairs from the stage and run into a familiar looking man. So again, movement downwards is about birth. And the first person you're going to meet is your dad. So this familiar man is going to be two things. He's going to be dad, and he's also going to represent the gift. And we know, because he's an actor in the dream, that it's definitely her gift of channeling. So she brought that with her. She came here to use that gift. And she says he looks familiar. And she told me who it was afterwards, because she couldn't think of it at the time. So of course, she has previous history with dad is also what that's going to be about. He has blonde hair. So I've often said that blonde hair in dreams is often really points out that the person who has the blonde hair is a guide. Now, there are many ways of knowing somebody's a guide, and one of them is that they have a title. And we see this in this dream because he's an actor, so clearly has a title. But the blonde hair also encourages us to accept an aspect of our nature. So a man with blonde hair is going to be encouraging the dreamer to accept some positive masculine aspect that she's got. So we know this dream is going to be focusing on masculine energy, but we know that as well, mainly because we see the man being the feature. And she says, he is sad. He has to say some lines that remind him of his son who has died. So this means that her masculine side, or an aspect of her that's connected to masculine side, died at a younger age. Dreams exaggerate, of course. It's not really dead. She can restore it. She can bring it back to life. And that's the point. But this lady is retired. Dianne is retired. And she worked with children throughout her career. So she's really good with kids. And so the dream kind of uses a kid because that's her comfort zone. It's like, I'm going to be able to help restore this issue from this age. But again, masculine side, because it's the son who died. I talked to him for a while, trying to comfort him. Again, this is her skill, helping people deal with issues around kids. But what she's doing in her own dream is helping herself, healing her own inner child. She says, I'll go inside the lodge to get my lines that are written out. And we see this, they're written out, and we see later on there's a price tag that's written. So she's also a writer. So we see two gifts. There's not really any other reference to that writing here, but we know it's there. She says, I find a man with a machine that types out the lines. I bring my lines to him, and he puts them into the machine, which prints them out. The lines then become clearer for me to read. And So I asked her really, could she summarize that a bit? And she said, yeah, the machine was like a tool that you could use to improve your ability with the lines. So that means that a part of her, like this is one of her tools that she uses, her channeling ability. And she's able to get herself into a particular state that allows her to read better. She says the lines become clearer for me to read. And when you get a reading, I mean, it's called a reading from somebody who channels, we see that word, like she says, I'm going to be able to read for somebody much more easily. So all backing up that it's all about channeling. She says, I keep running into people who are in the play. So everybody's in the play. Everybody's in the play of your life. But here, these are people who are also going to say lines. So it's like they want her to be immersed in the idea of practicing and then using her gift. And we know she doesn't, or she wouldn't have this dream. I mean, she does channel, but she doesn't really put herself out there as a channel. She will in time. We know that for a fact based on this dream, because that's what her life is about. But she needs to overcome this one thing first. So the encouragement given by having other people there that are all connected to this gift. She says they are practicing their lines. Again, that's practicing the gift. The weird thing is that none of the lines seem to connect to anyone else's lines. So this is all about her connecting into using the ability, but also that, you know, what she's told to say in one case and then the next case, like all these lines are disconnected. They're all just isolated individual speeches. And that's really what channeling is. When you channel for somebody, you're going to say what you're told to say. And when you channel for the next person, it's going to be different. It's not like, oh, I've learned this gift and I'm going to say these lines over and over, and that's going to help people. It's all very unique. She says, we go on stage and present our monologues and take our bows. It's kind of funny with all this build up. It's just like, boom, then it's all over and done. But it's good that we see the dream is really encouraging her by having all the other people doing it as well. And then she goes out and does it, succeeds, and takes her bows. So we know this is something that she's going to do. Then she says she goes down the stairs from the stage. There are clothes hanging from a hook. They seem to be for sale. So when clothes represent attitude, so it's going to be about attitudes she picked up from Dad. They're for sale. I think they are costumes from the play. One is a little girl's red dress. I look at it and admire it. Each piece of clothing has a handwritten price tag. So she's meant to develop this ability because of the red dress. It's to see that this aspect of her that is the channeling, getting on stage and using her gift is going to help her in some valuable way. And we know that because the clothing from the stage show has a price tag. So there's a value placed on it in the dream. And the value for her is that she's going to learn to do this with fun, use this gift with fun. Because we have the little girl, one is a little girl's red dress. So it's healing for her when she was a little girl, but bringing fun back into her life. Like she's going to be able to do this, enjoy using the gift and have fun using the gift. And so when I talked to her about the part earlier, you know, where she meets the guy, she meets Bill Nighy, and I asked her what her dad's name, and her dad's name, as it turns out, was Bill as well. So it's like, okay, there you go. We see the connection. He's definitely your dad, and he's sad, and we have all this rehearsal and so on. And in the conversation, it came out that Dad would focus on the things that you got wrong, you know, not what you got right. You could do a test and get 98%, and you would focus on the 2% you didn't get and why you didn't get it. And so this is her issue with channeling. I said, why don't you channel? Because you're already able to channel. So if I said to her, and I did, asked her, can you channel? She didn't immediately come back and say, no, I can't. She's like, yeah, I know I can channel, but I don't channel because I'm afraid of getting it wrong. And that's the connection, that Dad would focus on her, but focus on her getting things wrong. And then that becomes the big issue. And so this dream says she's got to work on the issues with Dad. She could cut the ties with Dad, for instance. That would be a perfect thing to do. And have on the list all the negative things, including this, the way he was, focusing on her negative aspects or where she failed, because that has made her in life expect to fail because she had to give focus there because of the way Dad was. And it's a very simple thing, but you have to think about it. She was a child when dad was this way. If somebody was to focus on my negative or my failures over and over again, like if I get lots of things right and I get 2 things wrong, and they always point out the wrong things, I'm going to have a word with them about that, saying, yeah, that's not really practical and helping me in any way. But you can't do that as a kid. When dad does that to you, what we want from our dads is support and belief. And when we don't get it, because we're not getting it when dad's being critical, we blame ourselves. This is always how the mind works in a child. It's never any different. If dad isn't giving me what I need, it's my fault, never dad's fault. And so I blame myself because of the fact that I'm getting things wrong. Otherwise, he wouldn't be pointing them out. And if I didn't get things wrong, I would get the support that I need and the belief in me, like whatever I could do, he's happy. But she didn't get that. And so she still is going through life today looking for the fault in herself, which doesn't exist. But if you look hard enough, you're always going to find something. But we overlook all the positives, and that's because of dad. And so that's why she needs to work on dad, do a therapy like cutting the ties or whatever it is. But we know it has to be, it can't be like a talk through therapy. It can have elements of that. It has to have something that goes back to birth, because we see that symbol in the dream. We see several symbols for birth, and we see a son who died and a young girl's dress. So it has to be at whatever age those people are, birth to those ages. That's when she picked up the issue. And you can't do a talking therapy for issues that were in your life before you could talk. It just is how it works. Therapy has to work on a child at the same age as when you picked it up. So thank you for sending that dream in, Dianne. Really love it. And cut the ties with dad. That's what you need to do. And you're going to find, especially because you now have the connection between dad's issues and you becoming the world's best channel, it's really going to help. Thank you for watching this clip from the Dream Interpretation Podcast. If you want to hear the whole show, there's a link directly under this video. Please like and share with your friends, all of your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast at thedreaminterpretationpodcast.com. That's also where you can submit your dream to the show and have yours featured. You can also download my free dictionary that has thousands of symbols that will help you understand the meaning of your dreams. Thanks for listening.